I'd like to call this meeting of the Clay County Commission to order. We will begin with our invocation. Administrator, when you are ready, please proceed.
Yes, please join us in an attitude of prayer. God in heaven, help us to work as a unified team in combining ideas for a great outcome. Help the decision makers wisely evaluate the options, be unified in making the best possible decisions. May we have a spirit of camaraderie in the room and work together on our shared missions. Amen.
Please rise for the pledge.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Nolte.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Here.
That brings us to approval of the agenda. Is there a motion related to approval of this evening's agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Motion's been made for the approval of today's agenda. Is there any discussion?
No, thanks.
Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
That brings us to meetings schedule. Administrator?
Yes, the next meeting of the commission will be a work session that'll be held in this room Wednesday, April 6th at 3 p.m.
Thank you. There are no honorary resolutions listed this evening. There are no discussion items listed this evening. And likewise, there are no public hearings on today's agenda. That brings us to item number 10, consent agenda. For those who might be watching or unaware, consent agenda are items that we had heard last meeting. They are of no controversy, and they are do not involve the spending of money. Any commissioner may remove an item from consent agenda and put on the regular agenda. That being said, is there a motion related to this evening's consent agenda?
Commissioner, I move that we approve the consent agenda as printed.
Motion has been made for the approval of the consent agenda. Discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
That brings us to this evening's regular agenda. First item on this agenda is 2022-111. Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-111 is a request by the Clay County African American Legacy to utilize county facilities for an upcoming event for the Juneteenth celebration. And Dr. Robinson is here to provide information to the commission.
May come forward and address the commission if you would like on this issue.
And
And I
Commissioners, I'm sorry, if I may just remind the commission, this is here on a first read.
It is, right. And yeah, that's a good point. I was going to address that after the doctor's remarks. But yes, there will be a motion to hear this and to vote the approval tonight, given there is a certain need of an immediate action on this. So if you would come forward, please. And anyone who does care to address the commission, please remember to push the button so the green light is on, speak directly into the microphone, and identify yourself for the audio recordings. With that, please proceed. Oh, yeah, you didn't quite get the green light on there.
Oh.
There you go.
Perfect. Good evening to the commissioner and others present. I am here tonight representing the Clay County African American Legacy, Inc., and we have asked the commission to approve the use of the county parking lot and west side of Rooney Justice Square for our Juneteenth celebration that is to be held on June the 18th, beginning at the Clay County Fairview Cemetery, where we will be dedicating a monument in honor of the 750 or more African Americans who are buried there in both marked and unmarked graves. Following that, we will proceed down to the Rooney Justice Square area on the west side, where we will have staging set up for activities that will include music, live entertainment, and also the barbecue that will be going on that morning, starting that morning in the parking lot. So the barbecuers will be there. We will be on across the street having our other activities until they finish, and then we will be back over to Rooney Justice Square. They should be out of the parking lot area by no later than 6 p.m. on Saturday evening. And if there are any questions about any of this, feel free to ask me at this time.
Would ask, do you have a contact information in case someone has a question later on, an email address, website, phone number that you would like to give out so that people could contact either about information or if you're looking for volunteers?
Okay, I'm sure we could always use some more volunteers. Some more volunteers. The Facebook page is in the process of being created right now. Shane Emmett is working with us to create that page so that people can just go in and register the participants. We're expecting probably no more than about 15 entries for the barbecue contest, since it is a one-meat event and the first time that we are hosting that here in the county for our particular organization. So that will go on the web, and it will be up on all venues. As a matter of fact, it should be coming out in our April energy bill. There will be an insert promoting this particular event, and we will also have promotional advertising that will be on the digital board as you drive I-35 and near Shoal Creek. I think you probably are familiar with that board. So we will be advertising, there will be advertising on the square as well, and we will be putting our flyers out and working with the downtown businesses that will have advertising and everything that will be going on. So it is ongoing, and we will, now that you have given us the approval, we will get that information out ASAP.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this issue? Seeing none. As was mentioned, we will be, this is our first hearing of this, but given the urgent timing involved, I will be looking for a motion for approval of 2022-111. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 2022-111.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2022-111. Discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing your event. That brings us to 2022-92. Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-92 is a request from John Bennett regarding, the waiver of interest and penalties on taxes in the amount of $269.26. Assessor Baldwin and Collector O'Reilly both recommend to the commission to grant the waiver of interest and penalties, as this was a result of an internal process in error and is no fault to the taxpayer.
Very well. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this issue? Seeing none, I would be looking for a motion for the approval of 2022-92 that would include which box would be checked, approves, or denies. So is there a motion related to this issue?
Commissioner, I move that we approve 2022-92 marked approve.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2022-92 with the box approves marked. Discussion? Seeing none, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
That brings us to 2022-93. Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-93 is consideration by the commission by Godfrey Carty regarding the waiver of interest and penalties on taxes in the amount of $703.32. And Assessor Baldwin has some information to share with the commission regarding this request.
Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. Tracy Baldwin, Clay County Assessor. It's really just the same information that I provided in last week's session. This taxpayer actually did receive a letter from us that was mailed out, I believe June 17th of 2021, so they were notified of the change at that time.
And it was, if I remember correctly from our last meeting, it was mailed to the address,
Yep,
And so it was-
everything was done right.
it was correctly received and.
Yeah, and the bill, I believe, wasn't received until March, just early March of when the actual bill was paid. So one thing I wanted to point out, when the taxpayer requests a waiver of these penalties, it clearly states on the front of that form that it is due to county error, and this was not a county error.
Very well. Are there any questions or comments from the commission? Is there anyone further who would like to comment? If the applicant is present, certainly they are welcome to comment. Very well. I would be looking for a motion for the approval of 2022-93, and in that, please indicate whether the box approves or denies should be checked. Is there a motion?
Commissioner, I'm going to recommend that we mark the box for denial for 2022-93.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2022-93 with the box marked denies indicated. Commissioner, Counselor, that's proper form?
Yep.
Very good. Motion has been made. Is there any further discussion?
No, just that I appreciate the information from our county assessor, as well as the collector, and we'll support the motion.
Very good. Commissioner, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
That brings us to 2022-78. Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-78 is a contract with the Clay County Economic Development Council for professional services for economic development. This is a longstanding relationship that the county has had with the Clay County EDC. The agreement is not to exceed $100,000.
Very good. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this issue? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the commission?
Not for me, thanks.
No questions, thank you.
Is there a motion related to 2022-78?
I move that we approve 2022-78.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2022-78. Discussion? Seeing none, you're recognized to close.
Close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
That brings us to 2022-79. Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-79 is a resolution considering contract for professional services with Northland Neighborhoods Incorporated. Again, this is an agency in which the county has a longstanding relationship. The agreement is an amount not to exceed $75,000 for utilization of neighborhood improvements and revitalization.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone who'd care to speak on this issue? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the commission? Seeing none, is there a motion related to 2022-79?
Make a motion to approve 2022-79.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2022-79. Discussion?
No discussion.
Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
That brings us to 2022-80. Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-80 is consideration of a contract for professional services with Rebuilding Together Kansas City. Again, this is an agency in which the commission and the county has had a longstanding relationship with assistance. The amount is not to exceed $15,000, and these funds are used for home repairs for disadvantaged homeowners.
Are there any questions or comments from the commission? Seeing none, is there anyone present who would like to comment on this issue? Seeing none, is there a motion related to 2022-80?
I move that we approve 2022-80.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2022-80. Further discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
Close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
That brings us to 2022-94. Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-94 is consideration of a contract with the Clay County Soil and Water Conservation District for professional services in the amount of $5,000. This is utilized to provide technical assistance to landowners on water and soil conservation practices.
Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, is there anyone present who would care to comment? Seeing none, is there a motion related to 2022-94?
Make a motion to approve 2022-94.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2022-94. Further discussion? Seeing none, You're recognized to close.
I close?
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Brings us to 2022-91. Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-91 is consideration of a payment to the University of Missouri Extension Program in the amount of $81,720 for the 22 fiscal year. These funds are utilized to assist with programs costs here in Clay County.
Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
No questions.
Very well. Are there any comments from the audience, from anyone else? Seeing none, is there a motion for 2022-91?
I move that we approve 2022-91.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2022-91. Further discussion? Seeing none, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Am I correct that issues 2022-86, 87, and 88 are companion issues?
That is correct. Resolution 2022-86, 87, and 88 are companion resolutions regarding the rezoning, the preliminary plat, and the final plat for the Walker Ranch development. Planning and Zoning Manager Kip Jones is here to provide information to the commission.
Please proceed.
Kip Jones, Planning and Zoning Manager. So this is Walker Ranch, which was presented last week to the commission. It is currently one parcel, zoned ag. You see it outlined in the yellow. It's 19.4 acres. The proposal is for two lots, one roughly 5 acres, one roughly 14 acres. You can see them outlined in the two different shades there. The comprehensive plan indicates this is in the urban services tier. This property is within 1 mile of Kearney, Excelsior, and Mosby, and the guidance from the comp plan is for 10-plus acre lots. One exception is the city within a mile may recommend smaller lots, but we have not received that for this case. You can see the surrounding lots that we discussed last week. There's a mix of large acreage and 3 to 5 acre lots to the east that were done under previous regulations. And then at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, they voted 4-0 to vote to approve. We discussed the 5 rezoning criteria, that the applicant received all their outside agency approvals, discussed the 4.99 acre lot, the general area, and the applicant also made a presentation including the purpose for the additional lot, them attempting to purchase additional acreage to get to that 10 acre minimum per lot, and the numerous smaller lots that are in that area. And we did not receive any opposition to this case leading up to or during the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. That's kind of the quick version. Since we discussed it last week, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and a representative of the applicant is present as well.
Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
I've got a question. So in terms of the comp plan, you mentioned that staff had recommended against approval simply by following the comp plan. Could you tell us why the 2008 comp plan envisioned 10-plus acre lots for this area, and what potential negative ramifications exist from deviating from the plan?
So the previous land development code and the 97 comp plan allowed for 3-plus acre lots throughout the county, and you'll see those sporadically. That's why these lots over here are present. I believe there's at least two different reasons why the new comp plan got rid of those. One reason was the cities would annex around those 3 acre lots, so we'd end up with kind of unincorporated islands within the city, because typically the city wants either more dense development or just large acreage that could be developed. The second reason is most likely the public input at that time. The current citizens of unincorporated Clay County want fewer neighbors. They want large lot. And, the feedback from the public at that time was everything should be 20 acres. So the compromise was there's certain areas where 10 acres is allowed and certain areas that 5 acres is allowed, but it's only in specific areas of the county. So I think it was kind of a compromise between the two, and also some annexation issues with the city.
Thank you.
Commissioner Thompson, do you have any questions or comments?
I have no other questions, thank you.
And I think you indicated, Mr. Jones, the applicant was here. If the applicant would care to make comments, certainly they are free to do so. No? Okay. Is there anyone else who would care to comment on this issue? Seeing none. Is there a motion related to 2022 86, 87, and 88?
I'll make a motion to approve 2022 86, 87, and 88.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2022 86, 87, and 88. Further discussion?
Just that, I think we've had discussions before about deviating from the comp plan, and I know we've had discussions about looking at taking the steps necessary to potentially update and revisit that since it has been 14 years. I will vote to approve this today, but I do think that instead of continuing to make the exceptions to the comp plan, we should either stop doing that, or we should expedite the process of revisiting it. And same thing with regard to the Planning and Zoning Committee. This has now been a number of times in which staff has followed the comp plan and recommended denial, and they've approved anyway. And so, I think there is some question there too as to sort of the frequency that that's happening at. But assuming my fellow commissioners support approving this, I will vote to approve as well.
My comment would be, I think I take your point, and I think it's a good one, and that is, if there are continual variances granted for the same issue, it calls into some question, and I think it warrants the revisiting of that, whether or not that is still, those are still provisions that are in fact relevant. I have a great deal of confidence in both staff and the commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and when they are not in agreement, it causes me some concern. So I think perhaps that's something that we should look into and provide whatever guidance we can to make sure that everything is being communicated as it should. So I think that's something that certainly bears some looking into, and I appreciate the point being raised by Commissioner Carpenter. Commissioner Thompson, if there's no further discussion, you are recognized for any further comments and to close.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. We need to come back and look at our comp plan and find out what needs to be updated and move forward with that. And I think it would make it a lot easier to move forward with these planning and zoning matters if we're all on the same page. So I completely agree, but on that, I will close.
Very well. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Thank you. That brings us to 2022 Ordinance 9. Administrator?
For clarification, that was on all three resolutions for approval.
I'm sorry, excuse me?
We're just clarifying that was approval on all
Oh,
three
I
resolutions.
apologize. Yeah, the motion was related to all three items, so all three items were approved. Is that?
And checked as approval.
Oh, I'm
Was that the
sorry.
Was that the
I
motion?
knew I'd missed one of those.
All three of them have boxes to check, so I'll make sure we're.
Just to clarify, since it was, to clarify with the maker of the motion, Commissioner Thompson, you meant to say that the box marked approved would be marked
Yes.
on all
Yes, Commissioner.
documents?
Yes.
Very well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. I had kind of overlooked that particular part. That brings us to 2022 Ordinance 9.
Yes, 2022 Ordinance 9 is consideration of approval of draft comments, amendments to the 2011 Land Development Code. This has to do with beekeeping and also accessory dwelling units. And Planning and Zoning Manager Kip Jones is here to provide additional information.
Please proceed.
Kip Jones, Planning and Zoning Manager. So this is a Land Development Code amendment on basically two subjects, beekeeping and accessory dwelling units. There are a couple other chapters that are affected, but Chapter 9 and Chapter 15 are minor changes that are just aligning with the proposed amendments. So beekeeping, you can see I have the current text summarized on the screen and then the proposed text. The current text is beekeeping is allowed on 3+ acres as long as the hives are 50 feet from all property lines and 250 feet from any single-family residence on an adjacent lot. If it's declared a nuisance by the planning and zoning manager, that beehive must be reviewed. The proposed text would not have an acreage requirement. It would keep the 50-foot and the 250-foot setbacks. It would only allow beehives in side and rear yards. It would require a water source within 25 feet. It would require a flyway barrier if the property is less than 3 acres and the hive is within 75 feet of that property line. A flyway barrier is basically a fence or shrubbery that is at the opening of the beehive that requires when the bees come out of the hive that they gain elevation so it has less effect on the adjacent property owners. If you're on less than 3 acres, it would also limit you to 2 hives or less, and it still has that nuisance. If it's declared a nuisance, it must be removed. So I think this amendment opens up beekeeping for more properties, because after staff did the research, we were more strict than a lot of the local jurisdictions, but it also helps protect the adjacent property owners. And then the other big change is with accessory dwelling units. Again, that is the only time a second house is allowed on a property. It's designed to be like a mother-in-law's quarters, a smaller version of a house. The current text, it's just not very clear. We believe the proposed text provides additional details that make it easier for citizens and planning and zoning staff to comprehend. And it aligns us with the code, local code, local jurisdictions, and the building code. It does not change where an accessory dwelling unit's allowed, what zoning districts it's allowed in, does not change the size. It basically just provides more clarification. It does get rid of guest homes and accessory apartments. And the reason we chose to do that is the guest homes and accessory apartments point you back to the accessory dwelling unit. So if you want to do a guest home, you still have to abide by the accessory dwelling unit code. So in our opinion, those are not needed in the code. Everything could be considered an accessory dwelling unit, and it just makes it simpler for citizens and county staff. And the changes in the definition section, we would get rid of the accessory apartment and guest house. Currently, there's 2 definitions for an accessory dwelling unit. We would update that so there's just 1. We would remove the accessory apartment and guest house from the definition section, and we would add a toilet room, which is basically a definition for a half bath. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this at 2 meetings. It was published in the Courier Tribune. We did not receive any public input or opposition. Staff conducted the research, and the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-0 to approve. And I would be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have.
Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners?
Just again, that I appreciate that it sounds like this was a thoughtful and intentional process, and I appreciate everybody who played a part in it, and I'm comfortable with these changes. Thanks.
Commissioner Thompson?
I have no questions, but I am very excited to see this one on the agenda today. We've been working with Mr. Jones on this, make sure that our bee-loving community can have their bees on their property in a safe way. So we're really excited for that, and all the honey it will bring and pollination to Clay County. So.
Yes, this is certainly a sweet ordinance. I had to do it. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. Is there anyone else who would like to comment, preferably on the issue, not the bad joke? Okay, seeing none. Is there a motion related to 2022 Ordinance 9?
I move that we approve 2022 Ordinance 9.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2022 Ordinance 9. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
That brings us to 2022 Ordinance 8. Please, Administrator?
Yes, Ordinance 2022, Ordinance 8, is consideration of amending the current year's budget and allocating resources for and reappropriating those funds for our 2021 open purchase orders. This is part of our annual process, and our county auditor, Victor Herbert, is here to provide the commission with additional information.
Please proceed.
Yes, Victor Hurlbert, Clay County Auditor. So 2022 Ordinance 08 deals with a stipulation in our budget that I bring to you those open previous year purchase orders from 2021 by March 1st and present to you an ordinance to reopen those that were specifically approved by the commission in the form of a resolution. Just as a quick reminder, there are 12, and 10 of those deal with the rescue plan purchase orders. The first 2 are the only non-rescue plan ones. That's essentially all this is. It's an annual process for us, so happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions or comments related to this that the auditor could help us with?
No questions.
Questions?
Very well, thank you. Are there anyone else who would like to comment on this? Seeing none, is there a motion related to 2022 Ordinance 8?
I'll make a motion to approve 2022 Ordinance 8.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2022 Ordinance 8. Discussion?
No discussion.
You're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
That brings us to companion issues once more, 2022 Ordinance 10 and 2022-99.
Yes, and Commission, so ordinance 2022-10 has a companion resolution related to 2 action items, Resolution 2022-99. And this is consideration of, again, revising the current budget and reappropriating funds for the utilization of the Emergency Rental Assistance Program 2.0. And again, our county auditor here is to share additional information about that program.
Please proceed.
Yes, Victor Hurlbert, Clay County Auditor. So 2022 Ordinance 10 deals with the extra 30% round of the ERAP 2.0 program we've received in the amount of $864,152. So what this essentially does is increase the revenue budget for that grant in 2022, and then appropriates the expenditure side of that budget with 85% for assistance dollars and then 15% per the guidance of the grant terms for administrative costs. So that's essentially what that split is here, just to provide the budget for that additional rental assistance program 2.0 funding we received.
Thank you. Do you have the numbers at your fingertips as far as the number of homeowners that we've been able to work with on this?
I had that, but I do not have that with me right now. That was something that I decided to not bring up with me tonight.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I would have to get that for you. I don't have it right. But we do have on our transparency website, we we update that monthly of the number of households served between both programs 1.0 and 2.0, if it's ever going to be referenced. So.
All right, very good. Are there any questions or comments?
No questions.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this issue, on these 2 issues? Seeing none, is there a motion related to 2022 Ordinance 10 and 2022-99?
Commissioner, I move that we approve 2022 Ordinance 10 and 2022-99.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2022 Ordinance 10 and 2022-99. Any further discussion? Seeing none, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
And Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
That brings us to 2022-109. Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-109 is consideration of the utilization of ARPA funding with a partnership with Downtown Excelsior Partnership, utilizing our identified ARPA funds for tourism. And County Auditor here is to provide information, and so is Lindsay Baxter from the Downtown Excelsior Partnership Organization.
Very good. Mr. Auditor, when you're ready, please proceed.
Yes, Victor Hurlbert, Clay County Auditor. So Resolution 2022-109 is an American Rescue Plan Act request that has been budgeted in our 2022 budget as an eligible expenditure to deal with the impacted industry of tourism in the amount of $200,000. Essentially, the county's partnering with the Downtown Excelsior Partnership to administer this program for us, wherein they are going to take applications from local cities and their tourist programs and nonprofits and provide basically awards up to $25,000, and they're going to be reimbursable costs for what those entities expend. And so the applications will be reviewed by both DEP as well as our tourism board to look at those eligible entities. And then essentially, my office will work with Downtown Excelsior Partnership to get all that compliance documentation before we send out payment. So essentially, that's what this is. There is a timeline there, goes through October 2023, and that's really all I have. Again, yeah, Lindsay Baxter is here with Downtown Excelsior Partnership if there are any questions for her.
Are there any comments for the auditor on this issue?
No questions.
No questions, thank you.
I was actually in Jefferson City yesterday and talked for some brief time with the chairman of the relevant House and Senate committees, so hopefully this is our first motion, our first action to kind of get back into tourism a little bit more actively. So hopefully that is a process that we will be continuing as we go forward.
And to that end, I think, we did submit at least a preliminary survey with the Department of Economic Development to express interest in, specifically for this project, for the partnering with the state to, potentially even, double that amount with their own rescue plan dollars, which is something we can do along with other opportunities with the state. So certainly appreciate you doing that.
Thank you very much. Further comments or, no? Okay. Is there any further well, first off, is there a motion related to 2022-109?
Make a motion to approve 2022-109.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2022-109. Further discussion?
No discussion.
Please call the roll. Oh, I'm sorry, you were recognized to close.
I close, we're good.
There we go. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Thank you. That brings us to 2022-69. Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-69 is consideration of approving a term and supply contracts with 4 vendors to provide temporary staffing services for many departments across the county organization. And Human Resource Manager Kim Callahan is here to answer any questions.
Please proceed.
All right, good evening. Kim Callahan, Human Resources Manager. 2022-69 RFP 9021, requesting approval for our temporary services. There's 4 companies that were accepted. We got 14 bids, had an evaluation committee that scored the 14 bids, and these were the top 4. Temporary services, we use them mainly for seasonal employees. It saves us. We no longer have to provide workers' comp, unemployment, liability insurance. Additionally, currently Clay County employees, we don't have to spend time processing applications, interviewing, and preparing paperwork, whereas they have a pool of seasonal employees for us to use.
And this is something we've done in the past. This is not a
Yes.
new, and this obviously gives us a little more maneuvering room when it comes to our management of our personnel.
Right.
Very good. Are there any questions?
No questions.
Very well. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd care to comment on this issue? Seeing none, is there a motion related to 2022-69?
I move that we approve 2022-69.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2022-69. Discussion? Seeing none, you're recognized to close.
Close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you. That brings us to 2022-96. Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-96 is the annual settlement report provided by the County Collector's Office for the year ending February 28th, 2022. And County Collector Barbara O'Reilly is here to answer any questions.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Barbara O'Reilly, Clay County Collector. I have any questions or anything? Please let me know.
Can you give us just a little bit of a, and I'm thinking also for the benefit of those who may be watching, could you give us just a very brief summary of the resolution and what we are accomplishing?
This is the annual report that's required by the state of the collector's collections and disbursements for the year. It starts March the 1st and ends February, the last day of February of each year. And this is the one for 22.
Thank you.
So,
Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
No questions, thanks.
Is there anyone else who'd care to comment on this issue? Seeing none, is there a motion related to 2022-96?
I'll make a motion to approve 2022-96.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2022-96. Is any further discussion? You're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
That brings us, thank you very much. Oh, you've got, okay. 2022-76, Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-76 is consideration of awarding a contract to Greenfield Contractors LLC for the replacement of the county's salt storage shed that is located on our highway department facilities. The amount is not to exceed $169,331.52. And Deputy County Administrator Carl Walters is here to provide information for the commission.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good evening, Commission. Carl Walters, Deputy County Administrator. I bring in front of you the replacement of a salt storage shed that we have out there. We built it back in the 90s. It was a small storage unit, then we extended onto it later in the years. The walls are not setting on footers. We have I-beams that are holding it up right now to keep it from falling out and back and on the side. So we had looked into turn around and getting another salt shed, which we had budgeted for in the 301-820, 403, and then we looked into what the cost was, $450,000, and then I got to looking into and talking with the manager of the highway, why can't we look at something that's more economical for us to cut the cost, yet still do us a good job, and we could store more salt because we have more miles that we are dealing with on salt and sand to take care of our roads, and we're mixing it a little bit hotter, where we're doing 1-to-1, where we was doing like 1-to-4 on the salt. So in that, we researched it, and we see that we have these structures out there that are fabric with a galvanized type frame, and they build a wall up, and they build piers for it. So we looked into that to see if that was a better quality, an idea to go with, and so we looked at 2 bids. This in here has a 15-year warranty, hot dip galvanized frame, and it has the walls. They'll come in and do the piers. The only thing we have to do is tear down the old salt shed, do the prep work for it, and then they'll come in and put the other in. The other thing is the fabric. I told you it was 15 years, and I apologize. It's actually a 25-year warranty on the fabric for that, and it actually puts a door onto it so that we could keep it from the elements.
Are there any questions or comments?
No questions, thanks.
No questions, thank you.
Is there anyone else who would care to address this issue? Seeing none, is there a motion related to 2022-76?
Commissioner, I move that we approve 2022-76.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2022-76. Further discussion? Seeing none, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
That brings us to 2022-97. Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-97 is consideration of authorizing the utilization of ARPA funding for trail repairs. This would be a contract with McConnell and Associates in an amount not to exceed $350,000. And Deputy County Administrator Carl Walters is here to provide any information.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Commission. Carl Walters, Deputy County Administrator. I bring to you ordinance on the trails for ARPA funds to use on trails to do upkeep, section repair, crack repair, and to seal over the asphalt of spider cracking and things that are happening out onto the trails to make it a safe place for everybody to ride, run, and walk. We're looking at Bone Bender at 10.4 miles, Smokin' Davy at 4.8 miles, and Eagle View at 1.5 miles to the amount of $346,578 to do an upkeep on that sections of the trails.
Are there any comments or questions of the Deputy Administrator?
No questions, thanks.
No questions, thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this issue? Seeing none, is there a motion related to 2022-97?
I'll make a motion to approve 2022-97.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2022-97. Further discussion?
Thanks.
Seeing none, you're recognized to close.
I close?
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
That brings us to 2022-110. Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-110 is consideration of an agreement between the county and Clay 135 LLC for road improvements. As part of the approval of the Carriage Hills Estate development process, the development was required to do road improvements. And as has happened in the past, and certainly we've been approached, sometimes we have worked with developers in which the developer's request is that the county perform that function of road improvements, and the developer reimburses and pays the costs of those road improvements. Deputy County Administrator Carl Walters is here to talk about that project.
Please proceed.
Good evening, Commission. Carl Walters, Deputy County Administrator. Bring forth to you this Cardinal Hills, Clay 135 and Clay County agreement that when we are asked from developers and/or cities that we've been in cooperative agreements with to help out with some of their projects, then Clay 135 brought it forward to us to see if we could do any help. It is our road. I think it's a good thing for us to turn around and do the rebuild on it, the re-ditching on it, and then we'll do a double chip and seal, rebuild the road, do a double chip and seal on 3,300 feet in the frontage of that development, and then also on, that's Crockett Road, and then also on Long Ridge Road, we'll do some road improvements, cut down the hills so we can have sight distance to the west on Long Ridge Road to make that intersection a little bit safer for the people that when they move out there and build their houses and they have kids or family members that are going to drive those roads to make it the intersection safer, the road safer and all, and then we'll double chip and seal that as well. So, and then they'll pay for it, and I believe it's $113,407 to the Highway Department.
Thank you. I'm assuming that this is preferable in that we have a little bit more hands-on when it comes to quality control and the application of the materials. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is a fair statement.
Okay. Is there anyone else who has any comments or would I have any questions for the Deputy Administrator?
No questions, thanks.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this issue? Seeing none. Is there a motion related to 2022-110?
I move that we approve 2022-110.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2022-110. Further discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
Aye, close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you, Commission.
Thank you. And that brings us to the final issue on our regular agenda, that is 2022-98.
Yes, Resolution 2022-98 is consideration of the utilization of ARPA funding for the Camp Branch and Crows Creek campsite pad repairs. Deputy County Administrator Donna Kuntz is here to provide information about that project.
Please proceed.
Good evening. Donna Kuntz, Deputy County Administrator. Commissioners, this is a request to utilize ARPA funds to complete approximately 86 campsites that we've upgraded with electrical. This is putting down a new gravel. It has, with the increased use that we've had and over the years, we've lost our gravel. We're getting grass to grow up, and this will help refurbish this with some additional funds left over, and we'll also send some of that to any of the primitive sites that we feel are in bad shape.
Thank you. And primitive sites, just for frame of reference, are sites where you're, I guess, maybe more, the camps are more rustic. It's more like tents and that sort of thing?
Also means no electrical.
Gotcha.
No amenities.
You're there. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
No questions, thanks.
No questions?
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would care to comment on these issues? Seeing none, is there a motion related to 2022-98?
I'll make a motion to approve 2022-98.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
That brings us to comments on non-agenda items. Are there any members of the public who would care to comment on any non-agenda items? Seeing none, are there any office holders or agencies who would care to comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none. County Administrator, do you have any comments you'd like to make at this time?
No, thank you.
Are there any comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Thompson?
No comments today, thank you.
Commissioner Carpenter?
I do not, thanks.
I am ready to get out of here too. It's looking like a good time for us to make tracks. That brings us to approval of the minutes of previous sessions. There are none listed for this evening. Written reports?
None. Thank you.
There are no written reports to be submitted at this time. There are no executive sessions. Therefore, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.